Welcome, and it's time for another Sequence Comics and Gaming unboxing video. Today, we've got the newly released Final Fantasy Opus 5 that we'll be unboxing. So, see what kind of gems we can pull out of this thing today. They'll all be listed on our web store later this evening. It's a little bit unfortunate. This was a bit of a delay on the release. It should have been out end of last week, but due to some distribution errors and from what I understand, some bad weather, we get it a little bit late, but here we are. Now, for those of you who haven't tried the Final Fantasy game, it's a fantastic game, super easy to play. If you have any background with majority of TCGs, Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Weiss Schwarz, you should be able to pick this game up pretty fast. As far as the deck construction, it's really simple. The card stock is fantastic. Again, if you haven't got a chance to try it, you really should. The starter decks are relatively cheap, and they're actually fairly competitive. I just picked up one of the second series of starter decks and played against someone who built their own deck, and it still ended up winning. It was a tough battle, I won't lie, but they're really not much of a difference between a stock deck that you buy and one that you put a lot of time and effort into. Plus, you get Final Fantasy characters. So let's start seeing what we got here. We'll try and show off a bunch of the cool cards for those of you people who haven't seen them or haven't seen spoilers, so you get a chance to read some of them. As we get through faster and faster and faster, we'll start going through and showing less and less of the cards, just getting to the choice rares in this, or heroics and legendaries as they call them in this game. I really like this one with monster effects. Leviathan, 1 cost. Yeah, that's going to be pretty strong. And we got a Dragoon. A few people want to build Dragoon style decks. I think that'd be pretty interesting. They seem pretty strong. A lot of them have haste. There's a few characters that can get around that, but for the most part, it's pretty much first strike. A lot of the times, just attack through their stuff after wiping the field. Our play group personally has been playing a little bit of it, but we haven't really got to the point where we're playing 3 and 4 color decks and stuff, but I'm sure it won't take too long. So yeah, this is a nice heroic that we get here. Summon, choose a forward, gains 2,000 power until the end of turn. If its powers become 9,000 or less, return card model to your hand. If you got a lot of resources, cast it, bounce it back to your hand, cast it, bounce it back to your hand. It's insanely strong. I personally haven't been playing the earth elements. I don't know, it's a personal preference, I suppose. That and finances, it always costs money to build decks, and especially the more colors you have, the more decks you have to build, the more financial resources it has. This one seems pretty strong, actually. So, also very interested in the mages. I do have specifically a lot of black mages as a theme deck. One of mine for the back. This is one that was spoiled. I'm actually a big fan of this one. So when Schrodinger enters the field, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a forward, draw a card. If it's a backup, select one character in your break zone and add it to your hand. If it's a monster, your opponent selects one forward he or she controls and returns to the owner's hand. If it's a summon, draw 2 cards. This seems pretty potent. I've wanted to try a summon deck. I just can't kind of figure out what I want to do with it. But I'm leaning towards water and ice. It seems like a pretty solid mix-up. A lot of bounce effects and a lot of freeze effects. And this guy would just go, I'd be an auto-include personally. Standard back rows. Oh, another haste 2-drop, not bad. I saw we have a foil rare. Fortunately, I'm not familiar with Final Fantasy 11 or 14. I don't really play the online Final Fantasy stuff, which is a little bit of a shame, but there's some cool stuff. I'm a big fan of Snow. I mean, you search for one card, Lightning, X or less, and play it on the field. Put it right onto the field. So, great for the late game. Some more stuff for Job Knights if you want to do a Knight Tribal. And, ooh, this is a nice legendary. X and tap, choose a Lightning forward in your break zone. If it causes X, put it on the field. You can only use this ability during your main phase. Absolutely insane. I can't wait to play something like this in my Lightning deck. Problem with it is you can only have 50 cards, and trying to find a spot for it at this point is quite challenging, as I've been slowly but steadily collecting things, ordering online and such. It's getting to the point where now it's getting challenging to add more stuff into the deck. I found the more I play, the more things that I was looking at before, like the Evoker, for example, a 1-drop that I thought, oh, it has no abilities, it's backup, it sucks. The more and more I find, like, they are super strong. Another 1-cost Lightning, just solid. You have to deal damage to the forward, but that's super easy in this game. Vayne. Search for one card named Larsa and add it to your hand. Another thing that I wanted to try was like a double blue lockdown prison. Again, the Larsa, I can't remember. I'm going to say it's Opus 2. Correct me if I'm wrong. But it turns around and it makes it so that any damage dealt, if it's not enough to kill, it's prevented. Just super strong. Get Branth, always strong. You see 5 points of damage or more. The cost for playing him is 1. Put him in the break zone. During this turn, the next damage dealt to you becomes 0 instead. So, hey, guess what? You can attack with him. He's tapped, but you're going to take damage. You just sacrifice him and prevent it. No problem. Lots of shenanigans we can pull with that. What else we get? My buddy, Doom Train. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's like 2 of the top 4 options. This is basically your Final Fantasy Cryptic Command, in a sense. Pretty neat. Lots of abilities on there. Always a fan of options win battles. The more options you have, the more you're more likely to push yourself over the top. Standard units. Type 0. That's become, there are very couple strong decks. From the starters to a few people in our store that have built them, they are pretty potent. I'm not sure what the tournament meta scene is looking like, but from what I've seen, they're scary. Oh, speaking of which, there's a foil rare for Type 0. They hit hard. They're pretty potent, scary stuff. So this is one I know somebody who's really excited about. Stop searching. Oh, another legendary. We've been doing pretty good so far. That's 2 legendaries. So at the beginning of your attack phase, select up to 2 of the 4 following options. Again, it reminds me very much of the commands in Magic. Choose a forward, it gains Brave. Choose a forward, it gains 2,000 attack. Dull a forward, deal it 3,000 damage. All forwards cannot be chosen by summons, EX bursts, or characters EX bursts this turn. So you hit with this, and whatever EX burst happens, just, nope, not happening. Seems like a good one. I really do like running X Death in my Lightning deck just for that reason. He's only a 1 of, but the amount of times I managed to land him, swing, they flip an EX, and I just can't activate anything, and it's just like, okay, sure, no problem there. I've also had EX bursts win me the game, so having something like that just to seal the deal is perfect. I like this guy. I like this. Chocobo Knight. If you got a Chocobo deck, this one's going to be pretty cool. Not too bad. Typical ice thing, make him discard cards. Again, this card stock is just so nice. And it's a pretty good game to get into. I mean, you buy a booster box, it might be a couple bucks more than, say, Magic, for example. Definitely a lot more than Yu-Gi-Oh! Maybe 2 Yu-Gi-Oh! Boxes, but Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a fairly cheap game. You should get almost all the commons and uncommons in the set. I think I've picked up 1 box so far, and it got me a playset of almost all the main stuff. Legendaries are obviously going to be harder to track down, and just like Magic, the Mythic Rares, it's much harder to track them down. But the price isn't too bad. Oh, nice. Foil Kitty. So, when it enters the field, you may search for one job warrior of light forward and add it to your hand. So, Onion Knights, etc. Going to be building that, I'm sure. This is fastly growing into I'm building more decks than I probably should. So I'm going to have to tone down on that. But for me, I'm excited for Moogles. Moogles is my thing. That's what I want to build out of this set. So, I mean, collecting them, I don't know how it's going to work, but more Moogles the better. So, a lot of these commons and stuff we've already started skiing, so I'm going to skip through a lot of those. I'll just go through to the fun stuff. Shiny cards. Legends and Heroics. That one's another solid one. Very solid. Foil Chocobo. I know who's going to be picking that one up off our store. Guaranteed that. I like this one too. We put it from field break zone, discard a card from your hand. But 4-drop, 9,000 beater. That is just solid. Scary stuff. Oh, hey, there's my Moogles. Search for a card named Mont Blanc. There's a couple of those now. And, oh, geez, this guy is insane. Again, type 0, super strong. Can't say enough about how terrifying it is to see those on the field sometimes. So when he attacks, he gains first strike till the end of turn. When the forward damaged by him is put from the field to the break zone, he untaps and he attack one more time this turn. You pay a fire and he gains haste until the end of turn. As long as he keeps hitting things, he'll keep being able to attack. So either he swings and he dies, which is at 9,000 power, it's going to be hard. You can get him out pretty fast. Start swinging, and if they decide to chump block with something small, you're just going to kill it, go to the next thing. So he's almost guaranteed damage most of the time. Combine him with things like the Zamus that just basically makes it like a Rogue's Passage effect, blocks them, makes it so you can just go through, no problem. Just keep going and going and going. Lots of damage potential there between those two cards. Alright. Same stuff here. I don't think we've seen this one yet. Choose a character. If it deals damage to a forward, increase the damage. Pretty standard. Simple things like that. Oh, grenade. A lot of talk about this on the rules forums. When it enters the field, put it in the break zone. If you do, deal it 8,000 damage. A couple points out with that. This is not a May effect. It's going to happen. If they play a big thing, it just happens. Second thing is if something enters the field and you have a all lightning forwards get plus 1,000 and you have an 8,000 enter the field, it enters as a 9,000. This triggers, but it would still be alive. But it's got 8,000 damage marked on it, so it's pretty easy to pick off. Just for those who've been asking that question a lot on the rules page. Yeah, more Job Warrior of the Light, more Type 0. Seems like those are going to be very pushed from this set. And then we'll just kind of flip through a few of these things. Most of these commons and uncommons. You'll be able to take a look on the website, sequencecomics.ca. So, oh, there we go. Nice foil Larsa. That one, I don't know about. He's a starter, first of all, but he costs 6. He doesn't have a way to pitch himself. I'm kind of on the fence about this guy. He costs 6 for a backup. You draw 2 cards. If you have a way, maybe with like Lulu, where you tap pit and sacrifice him, put him in the break zone, draw another card, like it might be some good steam for later on. But unless you have a way of actually getting rid of him from the break zone, he doesn't really do a lot for his cost. You know, he replaces himself plus 1 more, but he costs a lot of resources for it. This one looks pretty interesting. I like this one. So she doesn't activate during activation phase, but when she enters the field, choose a forward opponent controls, dull it as long as this and it doesn't activate as long as this doesn't activate. So you just lock down one of their things. I don't know how many Job Scion 7 Dawn that we're going to be getting. I've looked through the spoilers a few times at this point. Haven't memorized everything, but it's nice to see things like that because I'm assuming that that's a job class that will be getting more support as the Opus sets move forward for us here in North America. Alright, and just flip through a lot of these that we've already seen. Something that looks kind of new like this guy, I will show you. Kind of neat. Nice shiny foil rare. Ta-da! That one's pretty strong. From the break zone, choose a forward, deal it 7,000 damage. Pitch a copy of him, pay 1, tap. Choose a forward, remove the top card of your deck from the game. Deal it 4,000 damage for each CP required to play the remove card. Gross. Especially when there is another Tella already in play in one of the Opus sets. It makes it just that much easier to be able to be consistent, to consistently get that effect. Alright, we're about a third of the way through. A bunch of these already. Oh, there's new Ramza. Foil Legendary Ramza. Well, that's a pretty good pull. This one seems stupid strong as well. The cost required, Ramza on the field is reduced by 1 for each forward you control. It can't be 0. So you can ramp that out pretty fast. It's Knight, which is a great thing to work with. For each forward other than Ramza you control, it gains 1,000 power, so he's going to be very fat. If he has 10,000 or more power, he gains haste, and when he attacks, choose one forward, 3 or less opponent controls and break it. So if you can spam out a whole bunch of little guys and drop this, it's going to be insane. Like, there's a very good chance you could get this out, what, turn 2, 3? probably at 10,000 power with haste and just break their things and punch them in the face. I can see this going in some very, very fast aggro decks that you rely on very little back row. And the foiling on this is actually not too bad. I like that one. Put that in our pile of good stuffs. More Tomberries, Black Knight, there's another one. Before your opponent controls a 4 or less, enters field, put it in the break zone. If you do, break it. It's not a May effect. It has to happen. You put this out, they play something, gone. Odin. Odin's always strong, 3-drop. I'm a big fan of this one. Again, more options, right? It's like one of the two. Choose a forward, cost 3 or less, break it. Choose a monster of cost 3 or less, break it. If somebody's got you locked out with a knight where you can't play your thing, at least have an option so you can use lightning. She searches for this. Use this to pop whatever you need to do. Get around some stuff. This being the second set with monsters, it seems like a great way to get around some of those things. There's some very annoying stuff with the monsters, which I like. I've added that in. I can't wait till they decide to add items, because that to me seems like a logical course of action. They've got it in Yu-Gi-Oh! They've got it in Magic. It's kind of a Final Fantasy staple, but how are they going to add it in? You know, what kinds of weapon, armor, accessory, I would assume. But you gotta have some fun stuff for later on, right? So a lot of these guys we've seen. There's some fun stuff. Foil Rex. He's not too bad. Foiling's a little, yeah, alright. Gimba. Rosa. There you go. There's a new heroic card. When she enters the field, you may search for one card named Cecil and add it to your hand. Tap, choose a forward. During this turn, the next damage dealt to it is reduced by 1,000 instead. If the forward is card named Cecil, during this turn, the next damage dealt to it is reduced by 3,000 instead. Considering there's a couple Cecils going around that are pretty potent, I think that's going to see some play. She's also got EX Burst, so nothing like having somebody swing at you, trigger this, and you just block with Cecil for the next turn and not have to worry about dying. You might just stop combat right there. And let's get some fun stuff. Ooh, that is a wacky foil. Alright, maybe I should actually read this instead of just spacing out to it like it's on an acid trip. Pay 0 until the end of turn. Ozma becomes a forward with 8,000 power, and Ozma doesn't receive damage from dark cards. You can only activate this ability once per turn. Flare Star. 2 water energies, and pitch another Ozma. All the forwards opponent controls lose 2,000 power for each CP required to play them until the end of turn. You can only use this ability if Ozma is a forward. Oh my god. The cost on this is ridiculous. First of all, you have to have a 5-cost forward in play. Or, well, sorry, monster. Turn it into a monster. They have a way to remove it as a monster, or as a forward. Let's see what they got. If not, it's pay 4, tap it, pitch another Ozma, and you're probably going to be wiping their field majority of the time. If they got some big fat creatures, maybe they'll do a little bit better, but this has got some stupid combo potential, especially with a lot of fire decks. They can just do, you know,